Lewis Hamilton, a seven-time world champion, a name that once meant dominance, precision, and pure speed. But now, in Ferrari red, something feels off. How did one of the most consistent drivers in Formula One history go from rewriting record books to wrestling an unpredictable car? This isn't just another "What's Wrong with Hamilton" video. We're tearing into the technical layers, from car design philosophies and onboard telemetry to team dynamics and F1 regulation shifts. And here's the twist. The very traits that once made Hamilton unstoppable may now be working against him. This is the real story behind the struggle, and it's deeper than you've been told.
Yes. 2008 Formula One World Champion Lewis Hamilton.
Hamilton at McLaren. The star is born and engineered. When Lewis Hamilton entered Formula One with McLaren in 2007, it wasn't a debut, it was a detonation. He didn't ease into the sport. He exploded onto it with 9 straight podiums from his very first race. But this wasn't just raw talent on display. Behind that lightning-fast rookie was the McLaren MP422, a precision-engineered machine widely regarded as the class of the field. Fast, reliable, and relentlessly developed, the car gave Hamilton the launch pad he needed to shine. And by 2008, McLaren had turned up the heat even further with the MP423, a car so aggressive in its aerodynamic design that mechanics joked about injuring themselves on its razor-sharp deflectors. But all those wings and winglets weren't just for show. They generated immense downforce, giving Hamilton a platform to take the fight to Ferrari in one of the sport's most dramatic title showdowns. That season finale in Brazil, iconic, overtaking in the final corners of the final lap to snatch the championship. It's the stuff of legend. But peel back the drama and look at the data and it gets even more impressive. Ferrari may have had the faster car on paper, but Hamilton made up the difference through sheer driving brilliance. His late-braking, aggressive style, throwing the car into corners and catching it in controlled slides, was perfectly suited to the McLaren's chassis. Those cars loaded the front tires under braking, playing right into Lewis's strengths. It's why he could deliver performances like Silverstone 2008, where in torrential rain he won by over a minute. That wasn't just a win, it was a masterclass in car control, tire feel, and absolute commitment. But beyond the numbers and highlights, McLaren offered something crucial: trust. The team, stacked with top-tier engineers and powered by a monstrous Mercedes V8, fully backed their young star. They built around him, gave him freedom to attack, and shared his hunger for victory. The result: a 23-year-old Hamilton becoming the youngest world champion in history at the time. Not by luck, but by design. And this chapter wasn't just the start of a great career, it was the perfect storm of talent, machinery, and team belief. The Mercedes era, the perfect synergy. If McLaren was Hamilton's launchpad, Mercedes became his stratosphere. When he left for the Silver Arrows in 2013, critics questioned the move, but Hamilton and Mercedes saw what others didn't. With the 2014 turbo hybrid regulations looming, Mercedes had invested early and heavily in the future. Their gamble, a revolutionary V6 hybrid engine, the PU10XA, paired with cutting-edge chassis design. When the lights went out in 2014, Mercedes didn't just show up, they rewrote the rules of domination. In Hamilton, he capitalized like no other, winning 6 world championships between 2014 and 2020 and becoming the face of an F1 dynasty. Technically, the synergy was breathtaking. That hybrid power unit gave Mercedes a horsepower edge of up to 70 HP over rivals. A massive advantage, especially in qualifying, where the infamous party mode gave Hamilton an extra gear when it mattered most. But the advantage wasn't just in straight-line speed. Mercedes chased a low-drag, high-downforce aerodynamic philosophy that gave their cars incredible balance. Fast in a straight line, planted in corners. Hamilton's late-braking, corner-attacking style fit like a glove. He could lean on the front-end grip, rotate the car sharply at turn-in, and trust that the car and its traction control systems would stick the exit. Telemetry confirmed it. Hamilton consistently gained time in the crucial brake release to apex phase of corners. That subtle art of trail braking, he mastered it, and the car rewarded him. But machinery was only half the story. Mercedes, under Toto Wolff, built a team culture that thrived on precision, humility, and evolution. From razor-sharp strategy to blistering fast pit stops, the entire operation worked like a symphony. And within that structure, Hamilton found not just performance, but trust. He wasn't just a driver, he was a collaborator. His feedback shaped the evolution of each car, from cockpit ergonomics to suspension geometry. The cars weren't just fast, They felt like extensions of him. By the time he crossed the milestone of 100 race wins and 100 pole positions, Hamilton had fused with the machine in a way few drivers ever have. Of course, even dynasties faced disruption. When ground effect regulations returned in 2022, the new designs challenged the team's understanding and Hamilton's instincts behind the wheel. Yet even as the car faltered, Hamilton remained a match for his young teammate George Russell, proving his consistency wasn't just born of dominance, but of adaptability. Still, by the end of 2024, Hamilton sought a new challenge, a red one. The allure of Ferrari, F1's most iconic team, was too strong to resist. But what awaited him in Maranello was not glory, it was chaos. Car design and handling. 12 races into the 2025 season, and Lewis Hamilton still hadn't stood on the podium in Ferrari red. His best finish? P4. It's not just surprising, it's shocking. And the root cause starts with the car. The Ferrari SF25 has been a difficult machine from day one. Hamilton struggled to connect with it immediately during testing. Unlike his previous cars, which pitched forward under braking and gave him front-end grip to rotate aggressively into corners, the SF25 is a ground effect car with stiff suspension and a low ride height. It stays flat, and that's a problem. Hamilton's signature driving style, built on late braking and trail rotation, just doesn't work when the car refuses to load up the front tires. Teammate Charles Leclerc, on the other hand, is right at home. His flicky, oversteer-heavy style suits the Ferrari's traits perfectly. Early in the season, Leclerc consistently outqualified and outraced Hamilton. The car was essentially built with Leclerc in mind, sharp at the front, loose at the rear. Something Hamilton found difficult to adapt to. He tried different setups, but nothing clicked until he began converging on Leclerc's preferences. That's helped his qualifying pace, but it's come at a cost. The aggressive setup chews through tires and makes race pace inconsistent. It's a setup that works for the car, not for Hamilton. Team strategy and culture. If the car's a handful, the team dynamics aren't much easier. Ferrari operates under intense pressure from media, fans, and their own history. That stress shows on the pit wall. Just a few races into the season, Hamilton found himself faster than Leclerc in Miami, but was told to stay behind for DRS strategy. His radio response: pure sarcasm. Have a tea break while you're at it. The team eventually let him through, only to reverse the call later. At Mercedes, Hamilton had near seamless communication with strategy. At Ferrari, that trust is still forming. Pit wall mistakes, miscommunication, and indecisive calls have plagued the season. Hamilton even labeled them the flop of the weekend after a strategy disaster in Australia. The constant reshuffling of leadership hasn't helped either. From Arrivabene to Binotto to Vasseur, Ferrari's been in flux for years. That lack of consistency makes it hard for any driver to feel settled, let alone one used to Mercedes' ultra-structured environment. Then there's the internal politics. At McLaren and Mercedes, Hamilton grew into the team's focal point. At Ferrari, he's walked into Leclerc's territory, a team molded around the Monegasque. Leclerc knows how to work the system, and after 11 races, had finished ahead of Hamilton in 9 of them. To his credit, Hamilton has stayed positive, leaned on Leclerc's data, and collaborated. But it's a very different dynamic from the built-around-you world he thrived in for nearly a decade. Regulations and timing. There's also a bigger picture at play: timing. Hamilton's career has often aligned perfectly with F1's regulation shifts. He joined McLaren at the peak of the V8 era. He moved to Mercedes right as the hybrid era began, a move that won him 6 titles. But Ferrari, he joined them in the middle of a rule cycle, not at the start. That means he's adapting to a car concept and team that are playing catch-up, not setting the pace. Ferrari hasn't won a constructors' title since in 2025. They're stuck behind McLaren and Mercedes in the standings and chasing Red Bull. Hamilton, for the first time in over a decade, doesn't have a championship-caliber car. And in a sport as brutal as F1, even legends can't outrun physics. A great driver still needs the right machinery. Telemetry Insights. The data backs it all up. When Hamilton was dominating with Mercedes, his telemetry told a story of late braking, smooth rotation, and confident throttle application. In Ferrari, he's lifting off early to protect the floor. He's using throttle mid-corner to force rotation, a clear sign he's not trusting the front end. In high-speed corners, he's fighting the steering wheel instead of flowing through the turn. The SF25 has already gone through multiple changes mid-season: ride height adjustments, a new floor, revised rear suspension, and even steering rack variations just to accommodate Hamilton's preferences. Ferrari is trying to adapt the car to him, but that's a long process. Meanwhile, Hamilton's still running below 100%. He's chasing comfort, rhythm, and consistency, the very things that made him unbeatable in years past. Conclusion. Will the prancing horse learn to gallop for Lewis? Lewis Hamilton's journey across three of Formula One's most iconic teams isn't just a story of talent. It's a case study in synergy. At McLaren and Mercedes, he had it all. Cars that fit his driving style like a glove, engineers who refined every detail around his feedback, and team operations that fired with clockwork precision. He was in the right place at the right time, and he made history. Ferrari? It's been the opposite. A car that resists his instincts, a team still finding its rhythm, a competitive gap that isn't just about seconds, it's about identity. So far, the results reflect the struggle. No podiums, no wins, and pundits starting to ask if Hamilton still has it. But that question misses the point. F1 is never just about the driver. It's about the machine, the team, and the harmony in between. Even the greatest need the right tools to show their magic, and when they don't have them, even legends can look human. But this story is still being written. Hamilton is already helping sculpt Ferrari's future, embedding his DNA into the 2026 car, pushing for sharper feedback, smarter setups, and a more intuitive machine. Ferrari, for its part, is listening, rolling out floor tweaks, suspension updates, even adapting steering characteristics just for him. He's closing the gap to Leclerc. The car is starting to respond. The pieces are slowly, painfully beginning to... So here's the question. Can the prancing horse be tamed into a champion's ride? Can Hamilton, the man who once dominated with silver, make history again in red? If he does, it would be the final jewel in an already glittering legacy. And here's the beauty of Formula One. You never know when the tide will turn. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the how and why behind Hamilton's Ferrari chapter, subscribe and stick with us, because the next few races could change everything. The legend isn't done. Not yet.